Yeah, the debate video is up here for as long as it lasted. When I have my little ear condom, you see? Well, a study of decadence when societies commit suicide. Why not? Yes. We go now to the classic. Paintings of the Romans to make a point about the fall of Rome. Let's go. Let's go. I love it. A very historically informed perspective that has not been done billions of times before by people with no education on the subject. Let's go. We don't have to take this guy seriously anymore. Now that my understanding of this guy includes the knowledge of the fact that he said there's no ideological relationship between the abolitionist movement, the civil rights movement, and the BLM movement, I don't have to take anything he says seriously. Anytime he says anything, I can just instantly assume that he's wrong, because anybody who believes that doesn't have to... I like when he pretended to have a meeting to get to. Yeah, that was pretty funny. All right, let's learn what made the Romans go down. Was it gay people or women?
Decadence. If you know what that word means, it should evoke images of giant Roman orgies of peacocks in the serving tables and people vomiting up their food so they can wolf down another round. Alternately, the triple chocolate cake at your local bakery, which is marketed as decadent. However, what actually is decadence? It's a very vibey word and people throw it around a lot, not really knowing what it actually means. However, I'd like to look deeply at decadence here. What is it? What forms it? What does it lead to? What it consists of? And most importantly, are we decadent and what we can do about it? This will be a painful journey through the times in history where history just stopped since people were too busy drinking plum wine while sleeping with their Circassian slave girls.
What?
Hi everybody, I'm Rudyard, the guy behind Whatifalthist, and decadence is in a lot of ways symbolized by men's luxury and status. And nothing symbolizes that than a landed title, an experience you can get with established titles. Established Titles is a company that sells you a lordship in Scotland. Yes, you can become an actual lord holding a title and land in Scotland that you can brag about to your friends. It also makes a great gift for friends and family.
Wait, is this an ad?
Your title's official piece of land in Scotland. Established Titles also plants a tree in order so that you can preserve the pristine woodlands in Scotland.
Wait. Oh my god. This motherfucker has an ad roll for buying a lordship in Scotland. What?
And thus help the environment, which makes a pretty good gift. Right now, Established Titles...
Okay. It's not real, it's a scam, you won't actually become a lord? Yeah, no shit. You can't buy a lordship. No remnant of aristocracy would... You have... okay.
Early 11th century, two different millennia-old proud civilizations are under attack from barbarians to their north. India is being invaded by Mahmud of Ghazni, one of the greatest commanders of all time, a Turk from Central Asia who rose from obscure origins to command of an army of Turks and Afghans invading northern India. Mahmud's army slams into the Gangetic Plain, a region even then populated by tens of millions of people. He fights at the Battle of Cha very outnumbered and somehow wins against the local Indian forces. The Turkish armies are able to ride circles around the much larger Indian armies, having the Indian elephants trample their own troops.
It exploits a legal loophole allowing people who own land in Scotland to call themselves lord. Okay, I don't... Wacko shit. Wacko shit it is.
He then rapes northern India. And how do the local Hindu Rajas respond? Not by improving their militaries or taking on the tactics that made the Muslim conquerors so powerful. Instead, by building temples to please the gods to grant them victory. Over the next 300 years, the Muslims gradually conquer almost all of India, outnumbered 100 to 1 in population. Meanwhile, in China, the exact same thing is happening with the Sung dynasty, which is facing invasions from the Liao people of Manchuria.
Fuck. I hate the history shit because I feel like he's probably wrong about almost everything. I'm just gonna skip to when we get to modern history. Because I know that if I had like some history nerds on call, they'd be like, wait, all of this is being oversimplified, and yeah, it's wrong. This guy gets torn apart in the bad history subreddit. So there's no reason to listen to any of this. Let's see if we can get to a point in time that I'm more familiar with.
Caesar would just casually write out how the native tribes of France, the Gauls, had gone soft due to urbanization and contact with Roman luxuries, and so were losing out to the more savage Germans who had neither of those. Alternately, one of my favorite, and I think one of the most talented history writers of all time, Amaury de Riencourt, would write about how certain Asiatic peoples like the Chinese or Indians had gone soft against tribal groups like the Mongols or Afghans in the 1950s, and that was just viewed as the consensus historical opinion at the time. The only big group of people that have ever argued that decadence doesn't exist across history are Marxist materialists. These people believe that the...
We're just skipping around, and this is what we get, man. Okay.
only important factor in the development of human societies is economic factors. Something that's extremely easy to disprove and pretty simplistic. And thus for Marxists, to try to explain history with something like culture...
Do you remember when I tried to pin him down on the definition of postmodernism, and his answer was postmodernism is when you lie? Like, it was like, yeah, postmodernism is about the abolition of truth, but also he thinks that it's trying to impose a single hegemonic truth, and it's like, well, how do you resolve that? And he's like, well, they lie. It's like, okay, so postmodernism is just when you lie? And he's like, well, oh, God.
Or chance, or real soft human terms, they will say that it's not scientific since it's not relating back to empirical economic conditions. Marxists have always been incentivized to push their...
Get me to the... Yeah, okay.
Theory of history and economics, which they say is inevitable since it's really the only way they can justify their economic plans that are otherwise horrifying and foolish.
This dude seems primed to be a stalker IRL, Vaush, be careful. Yeah, he does have those vibes, doesn't he? Yeah, I like this map, by the way. Savagery that lay outside of history. All of Africa. The less colonized part of... Oh, this is a Marxist view of the world in 1850. So this is what Marx wrote, okay? So what Marx wrote was that everything in pink is Oriental despotism. Everything in green is agrarian feudal state that support capitalism. Blue is capitalism, and gray is savagery that lay outside history. Did he use those terms? Karl Marx drew this map with his own hands. Oh, I forgot yellow, which says, because this video was uploaded in low resolution, Marx didn't care about Southeast Asia, but the societies here were really dead ringers for the slave level of development he had for Greece and something? What? I have no idea.
However, even if we couldn't disprove the communist understanding of history on an intellectual...
Now it's a new thing. I can't... Moving on. God help me, this guy.
Understanding of human history that's just really at odds with the actual human condition. At the same time, the post-World War II reaction against Nazism meant that comparing any two cultures to show which is superior is seen as wrong has made the study of decadence kind of taboo as well. And I mean, I think it's pretty easy to see that changes in human culture have had profound effects on history. Think of how, for example, in our own times, how changing attitudes towards gay people have altered our society. Alternately, look at how we say wouldn't challenge someone to a duel like we would...
What? What? Is he saying that when things change, they change?
300 years ago, and compare it to how crime stats have worked out since then. I think in almost all cases, our grandparents worked harder than we did. Once you magnify all these...
Wait, what?
I think in almost all cases, our grandparents... how crime stats have worked out since then. I think in almost all cases...
Wait, is he implying that people do more crime now because dueling isn't legal? Wait, what? Crime has gone down, historically. Murder and rape and theft and assault used to be near ubiquitous facts of the world. Now they're far less common. Also, the people who did duels were landed aristocracy, not the common people. The people who did dueling back in the day weren't the people who were stealing loaves of bread in the street. Those are different groups of people. What?
Cases, our grandparents worked harder than we did. Once you magnify all these subjective cultural shifts over history, you can see how the real human character of society has immense effects in the course of history. There's this theory of a three-part structure to the development of societies that we've seen starting...
It's the Joe Rogan... It's that the strong men, good times, men hard, men strong, hard, gay men, gay. It's the same thing. It's always the same thing with them. This is Nazi shit, isn't it? Yeah, it's Nazi shit. It's the standard course of affairs here, because like the best argument fascists have ever been able to amass for their beliefs is basically like the vibe checks are off. Basically, things are really good right now, and also it's not illegal to be gay. Therefore, every bad thing that happens from now on is because we didn't make it illegal to be gay.
With the Greeks and Romans, and many historians, including myself, still agree with.
Wait, he calls himself a historian now? Okay.
This was a view of history that we've seen Livy, Machiavelli, Ibn Khaldun, or the greatest social theorists of the pre-modern world and the biggest geopolitical analysts today agree with. Societies start in a state of barbarism, in which people are filled with vigor and a kind of unsophisticated power, just doing what they want without much clear thought, but making up with it in raw...
What? People just doing what they want with no clear thought? What the fuck does he think pre-modern societies were like? Ah, yeah, dude, yeah, absolutely. The feudal, what? This is insane. The feudal post-agrarian civilizations were incredibly structured and orderly. What do we define as barbarism? Do we mean like the Vikings, as he's implying here? Do you mean these people who are wearing like chainmail that has to be made in a very sophisticated fashion through a supply chain that leads like iron to be brought to armor smiths? What are we talking about?
Power, just doing what they want without much clear thought, but making up with it in raw energy. This was Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries, a Europe with witch trials, the conquistador conquest of the new worlds, and the wars of religion.
Wait, Europe was barbaric when they were the conquistadors? Wait, Europe was just vibing and didn't know what they were doing back when they were engaging in the global colonization of the planet? Wait, that's this guy's metric for barbarism? When they conquered the planet through colonialism and mercantile capitalism spread across the world? That was when Europe was vibing and just did whatever with their energy? What do you do? What? No, you don't understand. He's a historian. This is once again like a not even wrong talking point where it's just, you could argue that like 1600s Europe was any stage of this development, depending on how fucking retarded your definitions are. Actually, medieval Europe was civilization because of the, you know, the scientific revolution and the Renaissance. Actually, 1600s Europe was decadence because the wealth held by the landed aristocracy and the nobility led to an increasing disconnect between the realities of the peasantry and the serfs and the landed aristocracy, which led to wars and devastation that eventually set the groundwork for the French Revolution. Like, what? You could just say anything. You could just say anything that you want. You can just make any argument.
These kinds of societies hate others for the sole reason of being different. Next, you see a phase called civilization, which is a society of temperate savagery with rational thought and articulation, while also maintaining the vigor and energy that goes with the earlier stages. These societies are capable of thinking critically about themselves and making improvements, or taking in foreign ideas that work, while also maintaining a strong pride in their own culture. In modern Europe, this was in the 18th and 19th centuries, the eras of the scientific revolution, enlightenment, and industrial revolution.
But the Enlightenment was rooted in critiques of Western culture. That was the Enlightenment was in large part dominated by anti-monarchists and Democrats and liberals. That was the birth of liberalism in feudal Europe. He said critique and be proud of your culture. What do you want to bet this guy's definition of proud of your culture has absolutely no consistency whatsoever?
Eras where intellectuals were able to bend the laws of rationality and science to benefit society, while the common soldier still believed in God, was willing to die for his nation, and Europe's colonies grew. Finally comes decadence, which is honestly where Europe is today. Europe's young
modern Europe, beginning with the Nazis.
Decadence came in the early 20th century when Europeans stopped believing in Christianity that had been the very bedrock of their society since—
What? Wait, what? Like 98% or some shit of Europeans believed in Christ back then. Even the Nazis did. They just weren't subject to the Catholic Church. A lot of them were still, like, a Christian in their religion. They were Christians.
The Roman Empire. This resulted in a series of horrifying godless tyrannies like communism.
This guy's such a fucking brainlet, dude. Godless tyrannies. Dude, listening to religious people try to talk about anything, like really properly religious people, bring this moron back on. Dude, this guy faked a doctor's appointment to run away from me. You really think he's going to come back on for round 2?
Fascism and the like, that killed over 100 million people. Western society lost its virtue, if you want to say that. After the loud decadence came a quiet, optimistic decadence. Maybe Europeans couldn't achieve their great goals of being—
Yes, the decadence of the Nazis followed up with the decadence of the hippie movement. This is well and truly a consistent— we must fight against the decadence. The decadence of dudes with beards meditating, the decadence of the death camps, you know, whatever.
Masters of the world and carving out a utopian future. And maybe Europe had been pseudo-colonized by its former colonies, but Europeans could at least build fair, prosperous, and just society.
What? God, he's so— you can't leave this guy alone for a second, man.
goals of being masters of the world and carving out a utopian future. And maybe Europe had been pseudo-colonized by its former colonies, but Europeans could at least build...
I love the text down here. It's not fair to describe Russia as a former Polish colony, but its core territory was, and it's a very poetic way of phrasing it. There we go. There's our history, lads.
Build fair, prosperous, and just societies. However, over time, we saw Europeans even lose belief in their own...
I'm going to be controversial and use the latest migrant crisis as an example. We know.
Rights to exist as societies, hating the most those who had...
Fine, I'll read it. Large majorities of European publics, when polled, do not want more immigrants. That's true, depending on how you phrase it. Immigrants end up being massive economic drains to their economies. Not true. The only thing said immigrants supply is cheap labor, which Europeans also experiencing a glut of with large youth unemployment rates. Not true. Doesn't decrease local employment or wages. Immigrants commit crimes at a higher rate than the local European population. Migrants and immigrants aren't the same group. Refugees aren't the same group as immigrants. Those are not the same groups here. And still wrong. Most immigrant groups in Europe have terrible trouble assimilating to broader society. Unempirical, can't really be defined. The truth is that the European elite push for greater diversity or de-whitening as a reflexive form of self-loathing. I knew this guy was a Nazi. No, this is literal just Nazi shit, yeah. European societies don't need diversity. They were the most successful societies in history while being practically entirely white. White with a capital W. However, the European elite loathes itself so much it pushes for diversity even against its own self-interest. Yeah. Just Nazi rhetoric, yeah.
The expansive or proud image of Europe. What had happened here? How could Europeans have seen the signs coming?
Hello,
when had this happened before? What does it all mean, and what should we expect? Well, let's turn to the historic precedent to try to build a logic of decadence.
I feel like there's not even anything to tear into here, in large part because these arguments are so incoherent that I might as well be, like, debating a bowl of alphabet soup, you know? Like, what am I supposed to say here? The decadence of Nazis, comma, hippies is indicative of... what am I even supposed to say here? This is
There's an
historical
underlying fundamental
astrology.
logic to how decadence and all its bizarre irrationality works. It is the willingness to put culturally constructed reality above reality itself. In this process, the cultural constructions become bitter at realizing their own weakness and thus try to tear themselves apart, while ignoring the outside world that they fundamentally understand they are at odds with. Let me explain. Humans operate through two different kinds of genetic selection. There's sexual and Darwinistic. Darwinistic selection is when the tribe next door has better spears and invades and conquers your people, thus killing you all and having their genes succeed.
What? Darwinistic selection is when the other tribe invades you? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my god. Do you think this is Darwinistic selection to him because he doesn't believe in evolution? Right? Because he's like super religious, right? So he has to... It has to be he doesn't believe in the theory of evolution. So it would be... Yeah. So this has to be what he means.
Sexual is that girls, or more accurately across most societies, the parents who arrange marriages, prefer mates from, say, a certain religious group or people who wear a certain fashion, thus resulting in their greater genetic proliferation. The adoption of, say, modern professional militaries was caused by the first trend, and the adoption of the hippie New Age values since the 1960s was driven by the latter, or the competing pushes of survival.
I don't even... You could spend... This guy is unique. In terms of density of misinformation, I genuinely believe that this guy is more powerful than any other person on YouTube. I actually believe that. I genuinely don't think anyone else even comes close to the... Like, Ben Shapiro isn't even close. Like, Ben Shapiro, you can listen for multiple minutes at a time and understand what he's saying, even if you disagree, and then, like, take down his points. This is legitimately... Every single thing that he says is wrong, and not only wrong in the implications that it sets forth. Yeah, it's spirit science. It's spirit science. Sexual selection. Girls subconsciously viewed caring about the plight of the oppressed as a good proxy for empathy. Wait, caring about the plight of the oppressed isn't empathetic? Which is a good trait for fathers, thus sleeping with guys with leftist politics more. At the same time as the introduction of free love, thus commodifying the sexual market, thus moving social norms to the left starting around the 1960s. Wait, I thought he said that sexual selection had been going on for all of human history. Why does this begin the commodification of the sexual market? Is he an incel? All Nazis are incels. And structuring that move to the left around maximizing empathy for the oppressed. Okay.
survival and popularity. In successful and healthy societies, the things that make people popular are the things that result in a society's survival. This is what societies are in the state of barbarism. People remain close to the earth and their surroundings, and so weren't too divorced from their natural biological nature, and so were able to keep their genes and groups surviving. If we exclude a morally wrong...
But the death rates were higher back in those days. Wait, entire civilizations, ethnic groups, tribes, and villages were wiped out with incredible ease back in those days. How many communities and cultures did fucking Genghis Khan annihilate? What is he talking about? Guys, remember, the consistent argument here is just Nazism. What he's essentially arguing here is that return to tradition, i.e., in tune with natural humanity, white tribes were able to protect their genes and their civilization because they weren't subject to cultural changes brought about through the left. I wonder, has this guy gotten more far right in the past couple of months, like in response to my convo with him? Because when I talked to him in private, because by the way, he was scared of debating me, so he asked to talk with me privately to establish rules of engagement beforehand. So we had like a 15-minute conversation privately, which I've never done before, by the way, before we talked publicly. And we had a pretty like friendly conversation too. Like I'm not like gonna fucking shit talk him and like just like casually talking or whatever. But I feel like he wasn't as psycho as this. I don't know.
Wrong the factors involved were, the conquistadors really did fuck and spread Western culture, while the military conflicts of the 16th and 17th centuries really did set Europe up for world dominance. Even the witch trials were in effect a Darwinistic way of weeding out non-breedable women and installing more natal norms among women for a higher birth rate. Yet over time, as societies develop, people become safer. Strangely, both intellectually and physically. Physically is obvious, and as the state becomes more powerful, people don't have to deal with external threats as much. What was true with all the cases of decadence mentioned at the beginning was that people didn't have to face external threats in those countries for periods of hundreds of years, meaning average people just stopped thinking about really brutal war as a real possibility. We see this trend in much of the modern West, where in large parts of the West, whether countries like Canada, Australia, much of America, and Western Europe, war is something that happens in other eras in history, and the best way to prevent...
What? Red is regions that think having a large military to wage offensive war is morally wrong, and blue is regions that don't? What? This is just one gigantic schizo post? Yeah, I guess. Fuck Australia. Australia ready to go. He knows nothing about the black regions. He doesn't know anything about anywhere, but I don't... These maps really are just like a paradox gamer's dream, aren't they? Like, he gets to have hundreds of thousands of people listen to him while he just makes up shit on a map. It's very satisfying filling in maps, by the way, you know? Just drawing big color blocks over a map with the transparency tool on so it only affects the land, and then just like filling in different colors feels amazing, you know? The funny thing is you can just imagine him on MS Paint and he's like doing squiggly lines because he's like totally making it up, right? So like, he's like, yes, in the 13th century, what lines would denote which civilizations were the most scrungly? And then he's just like, well, I can't make it a straight line because that looks arbitrary. I have to make it look squiggly, like I have super reliable data on like the very specific like county by county, lordship by lordship like areas here. Yes, this right here would be the scrungly border. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Prevent future wars is to act as if they can't happen. Ask a member of the chattering classes in these countries how they would deal with external threats, and they would start with milquetoast statements like
What?
diplomacy. Well, if you actually suggested what diplomacy really entails with coups, arranging revolts and local wars, they'd shudder.
What? Wait, does he not think diplomacy can exist in forms other than coups and motivating revolts? What? Wait, does he have any idea? The reason Europe is enjoying an unprecedented era of peace is because they are using diplomacy to negotiate their problems, rather than... What? Milquetoast solutions such as... Dude, this guy sounds like such a fucking fedora edgelord. When the chatterers and the liberals look up at me and they say, I didn't know diplomacy meant coups, can you help us? I look down and say, no. What the fuck is he talking about? Also, who thinks that a coup is diplomacy? Does that fit under the purview of diplomacy? I've not heard it used that way. The huge black area reminds me of this. Oh yeah. Each dot represents 5,000 hogs. World Geometry 1948. Untapped infinite hog supply in the ocean. Each state lined with an impenetrable wall of swine. We're trapped. We've lost Canada and Mexico to the hogs already. This graph rules. The hogs have the world. We're completely surrounded.
Alongside diplomacy, you would hear recommendations of denunciations, cooperation among the global community, and other things that are basically meaningless.
Cooperation in the global community is meaningless? What? The whole reason the West became so powerful and is the arbiter of modern-day capitalist influence is because America and Western Europe dedicated more energy to, like, external colonial and neo-colonial efforts than to fighting with each other. That's the whole thing that made us, like, Western Europe wasn't like the global powerhouse back in the 1200s when France and England were all fucking throwing rocks at each other across the channel, you know? We turned our vision outward, and a lot of fighting was done over colonial power rather than like direct like wars between each other. Not entirely. I mean, Napoleon still existed, but there was still a shift. What is this infographic? It doesn't mean anything. None of this means anything. It's completely meaningless. There are countries and civilizations that have lasted thousands of years, and there are countries and civilizations that have lasted several decades. It doesn't mean anything.
At the same time, it's inside the self-interest of the governments involved to pacify their own people. The legendary German historian Oswald Spengler talks about the process of moving from culture to civilization, or where societies shift from creating to codifying the things previous generations have created. A key part of this process is that an ideological managerial elite seizes power, which requires, I explain, the second point of intellectual safety. And the start of
Don't look up Oswald Spengler on Wikipedia, okay? Let's see, German historian and philosopher who died in 36. Haven't we gone over this guy before? Regarded as a nationalist anti-democrat. He did criticize Nazism due to its excessive racialist elements. But he did like Benito Mussolini. So there you go. He wasn't radical enough to like Hitler, but he did like Mussolini, who fought with Hitler. So there you go. There's your... There you go. Spengler was a huge influence on the Nazis? Yeah. Basically, it always ends in Hitler. He was still like one of those Third Reich types, you know? Shouldn't be as racial.
Societies where people are close to the earth, they have to keep their values realistic. As an example, watching videos of Americans from 100 years ago.
Also, what does he mean by close to the earth? So, if we lived in a state of barbarism in 1600s Europe, does that mean all of human history was barbarism up until that point? What are we referring to?
It's remarkable to see how much more disagreeable people they were compared to the present. People were far more willing to tell you exactly what they thought and why it didn't match up. That's because people were still clearing the frontier, and there was a clear set of strict values that if you didn't match up to, you were a loser. However, once a society's elite becomes urban, they start to construct values that are more about pleasing other people who crowd around them on all sides, rather than rural populations who have to deal with the real world on a daily basis. Unless there's a massive development.
But the rural aristocracy have been a thing for millennia. What? Does he think that the kings and queens and landed aristocracy of feudal Europe were ruling from, like, the farmland? What? Yeah, Louis XIV, well known for trying to please his people. I remember that.
Mental or organizational difference between them. I can't think of a single war where a more urban country beat a rural one. Rome beat Carthage with the Soviet...
What? Countries with more urban populations almost always win against more rural populations because urban populations increase in proportion to industrial development. Yeah, like the whole history of colonialism? You have to understand that his definition of rural and urban, much like his definitions on all things, are completely different. They have these completely different definitions. What about the Civil War? You know, like the urbanized North, rolling down, burning Sherman. Rattlesnakes and alligators, right away, right away, right away, right away, right away, do-do-do.
Union beat Germany. An especially enlightening example is Britain and France in the 18th and 19th centuries. Britain was a country where the elite lived in the countryside, and France was one where the elite lived around the court in Paris. French politics in this era...
What? 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 Wasn't the Royal Palace in... Where was the Royal Palace? The Buckingham Palace since 1837. So what about the older one? What was before the Windsor Castle? Windsor Castle. Is it still around? Damn, that's big. Does this count as living in the rural? Does this count? What do we mean by rural? You know, you see, the degenerate and decadent French aristocracy lived in opulence, whereas the modest, humble, rural English aristocracy, you see, they lived in comparatively humble, earthly environments. What are we talking about? I don't know. Rural is when no car. Yeah. You see, card societies always lose against non-card societies. True, though. True and based. This is so incoherent, dude.
Basically existed to aggrandize the central court and maintain popularity, whether through fashion, waging expensive wars to expand the monarchy, while agriculture, industry, and the colonies floundered. Meanwhile, in Britain, where the elite were dispersed among the population, we saw agricultural, mercantile...
What? What? What does this mean? Does he mean the landed aristocracy in feudal England lived in castles spread out across the farmland? That's the case. That's the case in feudalism. He means the landed gentry. Yeah. That happens a lot. That's a pretty normal thing. I have no idea what that is, STL. For a historian, this guy never uses primary sources. Sources? Sources? In this?
and industrial revolutions while the colonies thrived. In every single decadent society, the elites are urban, removed from the means of production, and compete in popularity contests against each other that has little meaning to the rest of the world. We've scarcely seen this trend develop in the Western world, where the governmental ruling classes have become government bureaucrats who have no relation to the real economic and social conditions that they live.
Yeah, that modern trend of presidential candidates being wealthy. As if all of the founding fathers, or at least most of them, weren't landed aristocracy who were, like, led the rebellion against England and were enormously wealthy and powerful even under colonial American rule. What? Yeah, Washington was crazy rich. George Washington, wealth. Net worth in millions. 707 million. He was nearly a billionaire in adjusted wealth. And if you go by inflation, the second wealthiest president in all of American history, with Donald Trump being #1 as a billionaire. Hey, who are these guys? Washington, Jefferson, another founding father, Teddy Roosevelt, Andrew Jackson, James Madison. How long before we have to go to find another ultra-wealthy president apart from Donald Trump, the person that Whatifalthist history no doubt supported, by the way? James Madison, Lyndon B. Johnson. Here we go. Bill Clinton, 90 million. All right, that's where we reach into the 2000s. Who's the poorest? Looks like they just go less than 1 million. Based Abraham Lincoln. Based-ass Abraham Lincoln, hitting it up right here. Ulysses S. Grant. Goddamn right. But sadly, we also have Woodrow Wilson down here. So, you know. Is this before or after being elected? May occur after the president has left office. You know, it actually, yeah, there actually used to be, the presidency wasn't always given a retirement fund. Yeah. Weren't there some presidents who died penniless? Yeah, Truman was broke. Congress passed a pension plan for presidents since they felt bad for him. Yeah. That's probably a good thing. It's probably not great for American political stability for there to be former presidents who are literally, like, in poverty. It's just, you know, okay, I get it. I know they're already very powerful, but it's probably for the best that they're not, like, you know, it's like you literally on the street begging for scraps. I like broke presidents. I like presidents that are broke when they get into office, not after they're done with being in office. Why? Okay, if you want an actual answer, think about it for a second. What do you think somebody with the political power and sway of a former president would be willing to do if what's at stake is getting money on the like food on the table? Think about it for just a second. How pliable do you want former political leaders to be when it comes to their desperate need for wealth? Yeah.
Levy regulations upon. The economic elite are giant corporations that distantly control their various continent-spanning empires, and the cultural elite are all socially isolated from the real world in wealthy bubbles in places like Los Angeles and New York. As society centralizes, it removes people's ability to act on a local level. Once this occurs, it makes the leadership of the system dumber, since decisions are being made in the top by people unaware of the conditions at the bottom, rather than organically through the whole society.
But this is what all federal leaders are and do. The head of state is always going to be beholden mostly to, like, top-level political issues. How often do you get leaders of an entire country that are like, yeah, let me manage this local farmland in this, like, one rural area? What are you talking about?
People's actions are judged based on popularity inside their local social communities rather than actually spreading a society in the real world. Stuff like agreeability, compliance, or being indoctrinated with the values of the society become important.
What?
High society becomes a giant court where people try to fake agreeability and kindness to gain allies rather than a warband where people speak and act plainly. This is definitely something I've seen in successful circles in America, where people act in overly polite and pretend to be sensitive so as not to offend.
Powerful and wealthy people act phony to get ahead. There, I've simplified what he just said. That's all. That's literally all he's saying. Powerful and wealthy people act phony to get ahead. That's it. That's it. This is a universal thing. You can go back to goddamn Egypt, and you'll have, like, the high priests of Tutankhamun kissing ass with their superiors, okay? What is this slide? Women tend to dominate in high complexity, low competition environments like royal courts or bureaucracies. Women have dominated courts whether in China, Persia, France, or Turkey. So the term dominated here is kind of an extension of his personal sexual proclivities. Women do tend to have disproportionate political influence in courts, in large part because this is, well, at least has been historically considered to be woman's work, where they'll manage the affairs of the house and the affairs of the family and the affairs of the state in fashions which do not entail any direct power, but still allow for the exchange of influence. I have no idea why he's saying low competition environment like royal courts, because that's really, really dumb. People would be beheaded for poor performance in the PR game amidst their aristocracy. Yeah, low competition. Okay.
Society takes on a more feminine character as this sort of world generally plays in women's hands more effectively. What's happened in each of these decadent societies is that ideological structures develop to please other people rather than actually accomplish things. These ideological structures in fact try to push people away from the disagreeable real world, instead trusting their ideological documents above reality as people see it. This is a way to push away the anxiety of knowing the world they've created is fake. The historian Amaury de Riencourt also talks about how the society's knowledge gets categorized in a list of okay subjects to study and have opinions on, so society is not intellectually challenged. In Confucian China, this was with forcing the entire elite to study Confucian and ancient Chinese texts that had no relation to their lives. In India, it was domination by a priest class, and in Islam,
yes, my friends. Imperial China.
It was...
Oh, sorry. Imperial China. A place known for having leaders who were incredibly receptive to the will and want of the local population. Yes, clearly the imposed education was effective in making the Chinese aristocracy extremely beholden to the wishes of their people. And pay no attention at all to the 5 trillion fucking civil wars that China has had. And peasant revolts and uprisings. Christ.
Al-Ghazali, who came to the conclusion that studying the Quran is more important than seeing the outside world, since God determined the outside world at his whim. In Greece and Rome, it was a study of the Platonic forms and Epicurean.
That's so fucking base, though. Guy who doesn't look in front of him while crossing the street, but does hold up the Quran to block his view, because God determines the orientation of the world anyway. So if he knows God, he will know the world. That's a goddamn Giga Chad right there. Someone who just like never looks up, but always knows what's going on around him. Like some kind of daredevil, except instead of hearing the sound vibrate off the surroundings, he can feel the voice of God telling him what's around him. That's based.
In every case, the only way to judge real-world problems was to read ancient texts, with no space for coming up with new ideas. In the modern West case, it's the idea of a vague secular humanism based on Christian values. We're not in the era of the Enlightenment where people throw around wild ideas at how to improve the world. Instead, we have a codified understanding of how to deal with the world that proud departures from, whether colonizing Mars, waging aggressive wars, massive programs like economic expansion and the like, are viewed with suspicion. Universities, which are the entry to elite, are...
Wait, what?
Proud departures from, whether colonizing Mars, waging aggressive wars, massive programs like economic expansion and the like are viewed with suspicion. Universities, which are the entry to elite, are basically...
Why would we want to wage aggressive war? How is waging aggressive wars, economic reform, and going to Mars all in the same category? What is he talking? I don't know what any of this means, dude. None of this means anything.
Ideological indoctrination camps at this point. In every single case above, the decadent elite which ruled through control of ideas tries to then squash...
We've got another map, lads. So there's Rome, 200 AD to 400 AD. And then we have both Rome and Islam. So I guess Rome didn't actually control northern Africa. It was actually Rome and Islam, the two leaders, you know, Augustus Romulus and Dr. Bashir Islam shook hands and controlled northern Africa and parts of the Middle East collectively. And then you had Johnny Islam, which ran, you know, the Middle East and what would be Pakistan and so on. Right, yeah, Dr. Islam, of course. And then you've India, 300 BC to 1 AD, which is separated by several centuries from the time period described here in Rome. Why do we have the same map encompassing borders that range from 300 BC to... Okay. And then China contiguous but key points at 1000 to 1100 AD and 1400 to 1800 AD? And then everything else is when the merchant classes were regulated into weakness across Eurasia as on a civilizational basics. Is this the title? This is the title, or does it refer to all the red stuff? I don't... So this is the title, I guess. So this is when the merchant classes were regulated into weakness. Whatever that means.
Wash all possible competitors, who often gain their power through real-world successes, like the military, business interests, or established religions. China, Rome, and the Islamic world all went through processes of self-imposed decommercialization, in which the elite regulated their economies into poverty, and we've seen the large declines of Europe as a percentage of the world economy, dropping from 28 to 24% of the world's economy, while the US has remained a stable quarter, as part of the exact same process. Europe has made the conscious decision to turn its back on capitalism, thus stopping...
What? Backwards compatibility in those modern-day GOP talking points. Demon Mama, I feel like stuff like this is really good entryism into conservatism, because this can get you in, like, anywhere, right? This is like schizo posting conspiracy bait, right? Like, this is the equivalent of getting people into a political position by trying to sell them essential oils and herbs. It is completely divorced from reality. There's nothing to look at here. It's like, it is absolutely and 100% like your interpretive, you know, metric is what matters. It's just insane. It's absolutely insane. Europe has turned its back on capitalism. Okay.
Its market and technological development. I mean, just look at how Europe's contributions to science with Nobel laureates as a proxy is a great example of this. The logic...
With Nobel laureates as a proxy? Wait, what? But Europe is massively overrepresented. Germany, France, Netherlands, Switzerland, the UK, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden make up nearly 50% of the total number of Nobel laureates in a part of the world that makes up maybe a sixth of the population. That's 3 times the proportional... Obviously, the USA is higher up here. It's almost like, hey guys, oh, I keep hitting the spacebar by accident. It's almost like the likelihood of a Nobel laureate coming from your society is in some way related to the industrial and scientific capacity of that society. Wacky. If you could imagine. Where's China on this map? China is a tiny red line down there that looks like it has 1 entry per year. I thought he was just making the argument that China was like outperforming Western Europe or whatever, but down there it looks like it's 1 or 2 people per year. I can see India, Canada, Ireland, Hungary, other Europeans is this little white stripe down here, and then China is this tiny red line. You see it start right here where the mouse cursor is, and it doesn't get any bigger. It's smaller than Australia. So what's the point being made here?
Nobel laureates as a proxy is a great example of this. The logic of decadence is the gradual removal of every element of society that would try to make trouble, or make life more complicated for the urban-dwelling elite living inside their ideological cages. It is the subconscious removal of acknowledgement that there even is an outside world. As removed...
I have no idea. I do not know what that means. Is the point wealthy people often build enclaves of wealth and power, and they become distanced from the needs of the proletariat? That's a Marxist talking point. Oh, you're telling me that the industrial elite in modern capitalist societies isolate themselves from the concerns of the working class, and therefore that any democratic system which prioritizes wealth as a factor in political decision-making is going to be anti-democratic? You don't say.
Removal of any reminder of the outside world forms, there becomes no reason not to indulge oneself. If your position of power is permanent, there's no need to worry about working or trying to justify your...
Sorry. There we go. The goblins are coming. The goblins are here. So true. The only map we need. Hold on.
Position. If any reminder of the outside world forms, there becomes no reason not to indulge oneself. If your position of power is permanent, there's no need to worry about working or trying to justify your position.
Okay, so I don't know if he knows this, but your position of power is permanent has been the default state of affairs for most power systems throughout all of human history. Because in monarchies or aristocratic systems, your power is literally given to you by blood. I don't know why he's acting as though this is some modern element of decadence. Earlier he was saying that Europe was in its barbaric state in the 1600s, back when those in power would have had their power guaranteed to them regardless of their performance. Yes, guys, it is a meth pipe, not a crack pipe. I'm not fixing it.
This is where the word decadence association with overindulgence comes from. If you don't have to worry at the outside world, why not drink yourself silly, eat sherbet imported 100 miles by slaves, or throw orgies? At the same time, once the moral code of society is based around popularity, there is...
Does anyone else feel like the reason they keep including these, like, fucking paintings of... I don't know if this is Rome. This doesn't look like Rome.
No recourse
whatever. I don't really care. Like, they keep putting paintings with titties in them because they get off to this. I feel like this is just Coomer bait. Like, is this not just Coomer bait? I think it is. I don't think there's any difference between this and having, like, a League of Legends, like, one-shot compilation, like, meme-tage, where the picture on the thumbnail is, like, Lux with, like, cleavage or whatever. I don't think there's a difference, you know? I think they do this for a reason, because, actually, I'm going to extrapolate a little bit, and I think one of the main reasons that they do stuff like that is because you're supposed to feel about this decadence a kind of impotent rage. See, I bet you most of the people watching this channel are much like Whatifalthist, weird about women, and a lot of their political views are kind of downstream of their resentment and envy towards women for holding, like, sex at bay from them. And I have a feeling that, like, when you're supposed to look at decadence, which is meant to be, like, the political archetype of what they want to avoid, it's supposed to, like, you're supposed to associate sexual proclivity with that decadence, right? Like, it's supposed to be a connection of the impotence and rage and frustration you feel that you can't be having cool orgy sex with the... basically, what this really is this is the equivalent of 4chan green text posts where they post school shooter bait by talking about how chads get lots of pussy. Or the incels will read the long descriptions of how chads, like, fucking swim in pussy every day, and you're supposed to be frustrated and humiliated and embittered by reading them, and it's supposed to make you angrier and angrier at the chad. You understand? You're being made angrier at the decadent because of the ripe boobies that they get to play with while eating cake off the back of some, you know, some fucking hoily-doily tablecloth.
Actions being ridiculous. If people have lost belief in some abstract external idea of truth, there's literally no socially accepted way to discount people who have become completely materialistic and debauched. In turn, in societies driven off
Wait, what?
Belief in some abstract external idea of truth, there's literally no socially accepted way to discount people who have become completely materialistic and debauched.
Wait. He's saying the problem is when people become divorced from reality, but also it's bad when people become perfectly materialistic? Wait, I thought he just said that all these super powerful people who were decadent were becoming amaterialistic, that they were divorcing their understanding of the world from its material reality and thinking of it only as an abstract. But now he's saying that it's bad to be materialistic? It's so incoherent. It's completely incoherent. None of this means anything.
In turn, in societies driven off popularity contests, once being debauched becomes the norm, everyone must reach it, thus creating a competitive cycle of debauchery. An example of this is when late Republican Romans compete on how exotic animals they could eat, eating ostrich...
He uses materialist as Christians do when you care about pleasure only. So by materialism here, he means hedonism. Okay.
crocodile and the like, spending ludicrous sums on importing these animals. In all these cases, we see court-like situations develop in which the elite looks down upon their own countrysides in the outside world, treating their social networks as the only world. In Asian societies, there is normally an
Come on, man. Are we really? Okay.
emperor, with Ba Sing Se in The Last Airbender actually being a decent example of the sort of thing that happened in real history, with the emperor never leaving his palace, with thousands of girls in his harem, thousands of bureaucrats, flunkies, and his like inside the
He didn't have a harem in the show. Okay.
palace, building a veritable whole city isolated from the rest of society. In Rome, this also happened on a local level, with provincial capitals operating as mini-societies in much the same way. With average people so cut off from the mega decisions that would determine their lives, they start to become passive, fatalistic, and lose hope. Populations here...
What is this? An incomplete map of areas that have become social trust black holes due to evil empires. I'm not even going to tear... I am not even going to tear into this. I have no fucking idea what this means. I have literally zero clue what this means. I couldn't even begin to guess. So many loaded words. It doesn't mean anything. It's it's so incoherent, it is completely beyond critique.
Stop being proud of their societies and have to be whipped into battle, basically. When people wonder why South Italians don't trust their government at all, or so much of the money the US put towards Iraq was spent corruptly, it's that these were the heartlands of decadent empires that screwed their populations over so much that no one trusts anyone else.
The reason the money we invested in the Iraq government went away due to corruption was because of the thousands of year-old hereditary gene of distrust that they'd passed on from their ancient empires. What?
This happened at differing degrees around the world depending on how parasitic the regimes involved were. What we see with decadence is...
By the way, I do think it's extraordinarily funny that for some reason his map here doesn't include Russia, in spite of the fact that Russia today, even before the invasion of Ukraine, it has a massive history of corruption, like all the post-Soviet states. Like, literally, everyone has a dash cam in Russia because nobody trusts the police to do anything other than take bribes when there's a traffic accident. But, like, for some reason, that's not blacked in? For some reason? I don't know. It's incomplete. He forgore about the USSR. Yeah, of course. Implying he didn't just color in the map randomly. I think he might have just colored in the map randomly.
Differing degrees around the world depending on how parasitic the regimes involved were. What we see with decadence is a complete lack of interest in other societies. In India before the Muslim conquest, the Indians thought that they could learn from no other societies, and even that speaking to non-Hindus would permanently pollute a person. Muslim visitors described Indians as the most arrogant people they had ever met. When a British delegation arrived in China in the 18th century with rifles, steam engines, and clocks, technology literally centuries ahead of anything in China, the Chinese replied the British had nothing of value to them. The Romans and Greeks literally built their idea of civilization.
As opposed to the English, famously humble about the state of their society relative to others. As opposed to the French, famously humble about their state. What are we talking about?
Not off any objective measures of development, but rather whether other cultures spoke the same language as them. Something that may shock people is that I think the modern West is headed in the same direction.
We sure do keep finding examples to put, like, naked people in these historical Orientalist paintings.
People
right?
like to say the West in earlier eras was racist, which is totally right, but the West was also very curious of other cultures. The West adopted so much science and technology from the Muslims and Byzantines during the Middle Ages. Meanwhile, you had massive Indian, Muslim, and Chinese fads in the Western world in the early modern period, with people taking fashions and ideas from those cultures. I mean, Schopenhauer and Hegel's philosophy was taken from...
But the interest we took in other cultures was an Orientalist interest, where we didn't think they were doing things better than us. We thought that they had curious cultural artifacts that we could put in our museums. It wasn't a belief that we could learn from them like they're doing something better than us, you know. They're talking about, like, appropriative cultural engagement.
From India, and the idea of the social contract, and
it became a commodity to bet on, you know, you know, having like some display piece taken from like colonial Africa or whatever, and it's like, oh yes, you know, I took this.
Modern secular bureaucratic state were taken from China. One of my biggest interests is anthropology and comparing different civilizations. And
really, you don't say.
You basically have to read books written for the 1960s because people really stopped caring after then. It's shocking.
Ah, yes. You see, when When reading on anthropological histories of the great peoples of the world, the Caucasoids, the Mongoloids, and the Negroes, it is essential to read books published before the passage of the Civil Rights Act. For after that time, for some reason, the type of research I was looking for just dried up. Fucking curious.
Shocking to see how popular travel and exotic documentaries and movies were before World War II. We now performatively care more about non-Western groups, but actual interest in the outside world's collapsed. You never see real analyses of how Western culture differs from China or India, say.
You can see those everywhere. You just can't see them that phrase it in the way this guy wants to see. Like, this guy wants anthropological statements that are like, following the thousands of years of Chinese, fastidiousness, we might see in their culture pervasive. Like, he wants like really dumb sweeping state. He basically wants anthropology the way it was treated back before it was an actual science, you know? Modern day anthropology on cultural differences between the West and China or whatever else are really interesting and everywhere. Everywhere. They have not gone away. They've just become less stupid and less racist, but that's what he peddles in, so.
You see no actual interest in how foreign cultures operate, or as agents of their own destiny, with the assumption always in modern social justice culture being that Western culture is so superior will always remain dominant, and thus other cultures should not be treated as their own agents.
And as we've said, he knows nothing about anything, so when he makes statements about, like, modern progressive movements, he's kind of projecting that onto me, or onto whoever else. Remember when he was talking with me and he tried that? Swear.
Adopting things from other cultures is cultural misappropriation, which is a weird, very backwards form of the same sort of customs we saw in earlier decadent societies. Decadent societies often do have a degree of self-loathing, and it might be subconscious sometimes, and it might be fully conscious. And the modern West's self-loathing is the furthest out example of this in history. And this comes from people realizing the decadent society and the cultural worldview it establishes isn't the real one. So people start to loathe that and try to tear away at the society's foundations.
What? What?
So that they can get more in touch with reality. But the truth is that such attempts normally do more harm than good because they don't see what societies fundamentally need to survive and what aspects of that society are necessary. It becomes a deep emotional loathing rather than a realistic attempt to reform the society in a way that actually works. I hope...
What? I don't even know what point he was trying to make there. I genuinely don't even know. Being anti-Nazi is bad because it's unrealistic? I have no idea. It doesn't mean anything.
I've helped show that many modern societies are dangerously wading through decadence. However, the future is changeable and I wouldn't fatalistically expect it to just happen. I mean, that would be a very decadent thing to do. However, how do we deal with decadence in the modern world? I would make the argument that Europe has waded further into decadence than America, since America still has many thriving structures for capitalism, science, the military, and the like. America has split down a path of greater decadence and standing against it. There are still many people who stand for the expansion of society in real terms, whether geographically into space, economically, militarily, scientifically.
What the fuck are we talking about? Wait, why would you cite Jordan Peterson here? He's a traditional conservative. Jordan Peterson is against most. Never mind. I shouldn't expect any. Yeah.
Or philosophically in America, which you really don't see in Europe. I'm not sure I would describe any.
Oh, here we go. Oh, I think he got in deep shit with the bad history and bad maps community for this one. My map of world civilizations, where we have the West, which you'll note cuts through Canada but doesn't include the areas that have more indigenous people in it. And then you have Latin America, which you'll note also doesn't include the areas that have more indigenous people in it. And here's you've got some Africa stuff, which you'll note doesn't include the areas that have the more indigenous people in it. And you've got Asia, which, as you'll note, doesn't include the areas that have the more indigenous people in it. And then you have Australia, which you'll note doesn't include the areas that have the more indigenous people in it. So we've if nothing else, I'm not consistent. You know? Excluding Southern Alaska. You'll never guess what tribes are there. Yeah, no. It's almost self-parody. No, well, it is self-parody. What the fuck is this? Orthodox? What? Orthodox. Stretching from Greece all the way over to Siberia? What the fuck? What are we talking about? He means Eastern Orthodox? Yeah, dude. They're just it's the one culture. The one Orthodox culture. Does he mean Eastern Orthodox? Do you think world civilization means like all the same religion? Well, he would like to make it that simple, right? Except he doesn't call the West Christian. What is the red even labeled? They're not even part of civilizations. Like, they don't even get to exist. This is what people mean when they say, like, darkest Africa. They mean, like, it doesn't even get to be a part of anything. Like, savages. Like, outside of historical acknowledgement. They're nothing. Here there be dragons. Squiggly lines. Dude, squiggly lines. Look at this. You know motherfucker just wanted to draw a rectangle for Sahel. And he was like, wait, that would make this look totally arbitrary. Squiggly little lines. Scrungle. Where's the scrungle line? Ooh. You can literally see his, like, mouse drawing it in MS Paint. Like, look, it literally follows, like, what a lazy person's mouse movement might do. Woo, 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 woo. It just, like, waves. Scrimblow bimblow. Woo. It's everywhere. It's all squiggly lines. No, it doesn't even follow a river or national boundaries. How does this match up? The India border next to the Kashmiri-Pakistan border. Hold on. Map of India. Why is it always low res? That's interesting. He includes the Kashmir province as India instead of Islam. That's not a distinction I would have expected him to make. See? You've got that little bump right there. And then you've got the wing out here, but he doesn't include that in India? Indic? Sorry, it has to say Indic, because everything here has to read like it's coming out of the notebook of a 19th century anthropologist. Cynic.
Any other real societies in the world is decadent. The big Asian civilizations all went through phases of decadence that they were shook out of by European colonialism, which has since forced them to rethink the way they operated. However, for both Europeans and Americans, I would say we have to make a decision about whether we will accept decadence into our society. How should we deal with this? One of the—
Take the vote, lads. Dude, come on, Dick Ride Harder. Holy shit. Talk about Elon. Name him. Name him.
main points to consider is that for intelligent people, decadence is never fun. They can see through the veil of their society running off fumes. Likewise, since there's so little progress and often really irrational social structures, life often isn't the best for normal people either. In a lot of cases, decadence
What are we talking? What does any of this mean?
means as much poverty in the lower levels as debauchery and excess in the higher ones, since society isn't working right. Lots of people aren't happy in decadent societies, but the culture just doesn't have a lot of new ideas on how to get things done in realistic ways, so the society as a whole stagnates. The main thing that benefits from decadence is stagnation. You know, all the people in society who just want to live their lives.
What is this resolution? You couldn't find a tie-dye shirt in higher resolution?
And not be bothered with the affairs of the world. They will support decadence, they don't have to think, and also whatever elite group in your society thrives from lack of action. I think there are two different kinds of decadence that come from the timescales involved. There's a slow, quiet decadence that comes to societies as they get older and stop being able to filter new information.
You might notice, by the way, that in spite of the fact that we've watched almost the entirety of this horrible fucking video, the only definition for decadence that he's managed to provide is like when elites get kind of like distant from the values and like reality of the area that they control, and when they like deal with court shenanigans and get in drama with each other and don't really like feel that interested in doing with the outside world, which is also, by the way, what all elites do, like all the time. Anytime you have a society that's large enough that it can't be ruled by one village chieftain, you're going to see this kind of behavior, like every time, you know? That's it. Like it's such an arbitrary and meaningless definition. It doesn't refer to anything.
Their worldview. This is how the Chinese didn't use the gunpowder, which they invented, or refusing to even acknowledge the West's obvious technological superiority. Spengler called this the winter of civilization. The second kind of decadence is that of debauchery and lack of moral standard. This is Weimar Germany.
What? But they did. Didn't they have cannons and fireworks? What? The reason the Chinese nobility didn't immediately fucking bow down to the British and say, wow, thank you for these awesome guns, they're so great, is because, spoiler alert, civilizations don't usually do that. Like, when the British show up to say, like, hey, open your trading ports and also notice how we've got super awesome guns, the appropriate response to that is not, oh my god, wow, you're so much better than us, your military technology is superior to ours in every way. Like, what are you talking about?
an era of mass prostitution, drinking, and partying. This tends to ebb and flow over the centuries in societies, often as reactions to eras of extreme debauchery and lack of moral standard. This is the era of civilization. The second kind of decadence is that of debauchery and lack of moral standard. This is Weimar Germany, an era of mass prostitution, drinking, and partying. This tends to ebb and flow over the centuries in societies, often as reactions to eras of extreme purity, horrible wars, or once you get eras of extremely rapid inflows of money.
So here's a quick question. Why is it that earlier he showed the Vikings as an example of a barbaric people? Wait, wouldn't drinking and partying be more of a thing that you'd associate with them? Like, he was celebrating the power and the vigor of, like, the old Europeans and the Vikings and so on. I swear to God, those people drank and partied way the fuck more. Way more than any of us are today, okay? That was their whole shit. Yeah, Vikings, famously celibate and straight edge, you know? Abstinent from both sex and alcohol. Yeah, their whole afterlife. They were so about fucking and drinking that their story was that if you die in combat, you get to go to Valhalla and fuck and drink forever. That was literally the shit they got. Literally, like, dude, Christians are so fucking gay, dude. Yeah, dude, if you, like, do good, then you can go on, like, a cloud, and there's, like, cherubs, and, like, you get to live an honest and virtuous. And the Vikings are like, all right, listen up, okay? You better fuck and party while you can, because if you do it really good, you get to do it forever. And if you don't, you get to go to hell, where they're still fucking and partying, but also, like, you get stabbed to death by ogres or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Fun fact, the Roman elite loved sugary wine so much it gave them lead poisoning. Jesus Christ. Based. That's it. This is a party girl. I'm a Roman girl in a Roman world. Calculated the Roman aristocrat probably took in 250 milligrams of lead per day. Holy shit. These dudes were giving themselves Tard syndrome. Holy fuck, their eyes are pointed both ways. They're getting goddamn white girl wasted out here on lead wine. Holy shit. That is fantastic. Is that healthy? No. No, it's not. Yeah, lead makes stuff taste sweet.
Unless it's a place like Brazil, this kind of debauchery doesn't last forever, since everyone eventually gets tired of partying after a decade or something.
What? Yeah, the age of partying doesn't last that long because people get tired of partying, unless it's like Brazil or something. I don't know. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about?
Combining both moral and intellectual collapse with partying is something like the fall of the Roman Republic, in which the moral decay of the Roman nation went with lots of...
No way, dude. No way. You have an example to use from the Roman Republic? That's what we're gonna use to make a broad, sweeping point about the nature of human civilizations? We're going to use Rome? Damn.
Partying and hype. Emperor Augustus was able to reform the Roman Empire afterwards, but Rome was...
Whoa! This is Rome? I thought we established this was, you know, Augustus Romulus and Dr. Bashir Islam that controlled this part. I don't know why they're going back on their... Yeah.
Was still stuck in the decaying structure of classical civilization, which centuries later resulted in its fall. Our society is in the first group.
Wait, hold on. That's all of Persia. How far did the Romans get? At its greatest height in 117 AD. What? What about this? That's a lot of territory that isn't on this map. Armenia, Assyria, Mesopotamia. They just color it in on purpose? Yeah, this was... Oh god, that resolution. Holy shit. That was the Persian Empire. This is way in the 7th century, but yeah, the Persian Empire was like around here, right? He's including Macedon's empire? Why? Okay, quick question though, why? Because they look the same? This is the first Roman-Persian war map? But why did Greece and Rome rise and fall? But this isn't Greece or Rome. Okay, you know what? Never mind. I don't know, man. Oh, also, wait, Greece and Rome? Wait, Greece and Rome weren't the same even remotely weren't. Wait, what? Just casually, the Alexander's Greece and the Roman Empire. Just, yeah, dude, like, why the Greece Roman Empire fell, Indian Empire, yeah, Indian Empire, Chinese dynasties, and I don't know, yeah, the Mansu yeah, let's get that, the Mesopotamian Empire. Just why stuff happens, dude. Why does stuff happen even?
Civilization, which century later resulted in its fall. Our society is in the first group, and I think we have to worry about our society losing its ability to adapt. We aren't in the second category, and our society is sadly not overflowing with debauchery and 1920s style parties. The decadence here is largely moral and has not come through actual debauchery. This
What? What? God, Los Angeles is disgusting. Griffith Park Observatory is nice, though.
video was inspired by me going to Los Angeles, and I wasn't shocked by how much partying was going on in LA, but instead the bizarre things people spent their money on. So the thing to keep in mind is that this is the highest era of inequality in all of American history, but the wealthy today tend to not be super ostentatious in the same way they've been in other eras of history. Americans and wealthy Americans, I would say, on a higher average basis, are still shockingly hardworking. However, when you degrade the moral foundations of society, the rest of it will fall apart over time. We live in an age where reality is largely what we say it is, not what the real world believes.
What? What? What the fuck? What are we talking about? Reality is what we say it is, but not what the rest of the world believes. If the rest of the world believes something, wouldn't that mean that the world, according to them, is what they say it is? Wouldn't? What?
We are completely high on our abilities and not humble of our own weakness, and we see this with stuff like NFTs, gender relativism, modern art, streetwear, and the like, whose sole purposes are to show their
streetwear, gender relativism, and NFTs. Ah, match made in heaven.
Absurdity and transgress boundaries without any other real purpose. I think the Western world needs to hold two concepts strong in order to forestall decadence. The first is a concept of personal honor. Honor is the idea.
All right, let's hear this. This should be good.
Idea that life has a certain degree of value and dignity given to it above merely the roles you were born into.
Why would he show a samurai and then say that honor says that life has worth outside the roles you're given, when the honor of a samurai was entirely dictated by the extent to which they could achieve their profession and life-given goals, to the point that they would kill themselves if they didn't do it well, thus indicating their life had no value outside of the role that they were given. What the fuck are we talking about? How is he showing examples of the worst opposite thing? The opposite thing because he's historically illiterate? No, I know, but everyone knows this about the samurai. The samurai did have a code of honor, but it was entirely determined not by the value of life, but by the roles given to them as a product of their profession. And it did become a hereditary class. Yeah, the children of samurai were expected to be... Yeah.
That you can expect this dignity from how people act and defend it inside yourself and as an institution inside society. However, once you remove dignity and honor from societies, as we have in recent decades, we've lost so many moral...
He still wants dueling. He still wants dueling.
...pillars that we can use to forestall decadence. Look at celebrity culture. Apart from the nobility and royalty in previous eras, you would do a...
I like how he doesn't like petty court bickering because he feels like it's divorced from the outside world, but he's also in favor of government officials and landed aristocrats and wealthy and powerful people having duels over that petty drama. What is he talking about?
...accomplish something to be glorified by society. However, today...
Dueling is a little cool. I will say this, okay? I genuinely do feel like dueling should be fine, but it shouldn't be with dueling pistols. It should be with fencing. If fence dueling was like an established social trend, I would actually defend it. Like I would definitely defend it. Yeah. 100%. Cuz in a way you just want the hats. You don't wear hats in fencing. You wear those mask guards. Vaush, you serious? No, I'm serious. Okay, here's the thing, okay? I feel like one thing that people don't get tested enough on is conviction, you know? So one way that you can test conviction is on gambling. hey, if you believe this so much, then why don't you put money down on it? But it's not considered to be a very honorable or very socially acceptable way of resolving high-level disputes. Like if there are government officials that are saying X is going to happen, like say, for example, back in 2018 before the primaries, whether or not there would be a giant caravan of migrants coming up that Donald Trump then used the National Guard to defend against, you know? So it would be like, well, if you really think that's going to happen, why don't you put a bet in on it? But the thing is, people don't really do that. So what if instead, people who are in power are just expected to get good at fencing? How about that, huh? That's what we got to do. Fencing is safe. Do it with any melee weapon, though. There are only so many safe melee weapons, you know? No, it is safe. Wait, no, fencing is actually really... That's not a joke. It's safer than boxing. Fencing is safe, yeah. The swords bend when you stab somebody. Why not boxing? Boxing isn't safe. Reject safety, embrace dueling with pistols. Yeah, okay. Well, you can do... look, you can still do that, all right? You know, it's not like it's impossible to go fucking pistol duel with somebody these days. All I'm saying is, if we're talking, you know, if we're talking government officials or nothing, these pussies aren't going to risk their lives. We need to give them a little fencing. Does anyone remember the... Does anyone remember that bit from the James Bond movie, Nightfire? Was it? No, not Nightfire. That's the game. Day Night. The one where he does the fencing with the other guy. Like it's one of those Bond moments. My name is Dr. Harrington Kensington, and I'm interested in this expensive retreat that you have. Die Another Day? Is it Die Another Day? And then the other guy's fencing, and then they fence? That was the only good part of that movie. That movie fucking sucked. That movie was shit. But that was a good part. And then he, like, punches through the display case and pulls out, like, a claymore and starts swinging it. That was cool. Terrible movie. Dance-offs would also be acceptable, I think. Heard story of Irish traveler and boxing champion Tyson Fury that fist fighting is socially acceptable among Irish travelers for this reason. They're unlikely to kill each other. They can put their body where their mouth is. Why not? I mean, if we want to get body about it, like, why not just fuck each other? You know, just why not? Okay. How many dicks would you suck if in case your thing doesn't come true? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. We need a dick off there. Hey, Mr. Trump, you claim that a migrant caravan is going to attack the U.S. in 2018. How many dicks will you suck if that turns out not to be the case? Cock wrestling, exactly. Vaush, yeah, let's bring back legal duels. That will surely not disadvantage the economic class. Who can afford duel instructors, take time off from work to train and practice? Oh, come on. Really? We can't encourage Donald Trump and Biden to fence each other because it might be classist? Please, come on. No fun allowed. Everyone put up the... Nah, all right, back to the video. What about Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling? Hey, you want to know a real classist form of duels? Magic the Gathering. Ha! All right, sorry.
We pick celebrities who are popular since they're relatable. We glorify celebrities who make fools of themselves publicly since we don't feel judged by them, and so we don't feel like we have to have a higher moral standard in our society.
What? This is such boomer posting, dude. Holy shit. Celebrities are not good role models, therefore society is falling. Yeah. Dude, what about come on. What about Warhammer? Come on. That would be the real classism though, you know? Like some journalist would publish an op-ed shit-talking a politician, like some wealthy magnate or whatever. The politician would be like, "Well, I do declare that you've done me a disservice. I declare you to duel." And then the nervous journalist is like, okay. They show up at the battle mat, you know. The journalist pulls out his ultramarine, you know, like half-painted ultramarine army, you know, like 360 points at most. Meanwhile, like a team of 4 of the politician's handlers carry in a palanquin with a giant chest on top of it that opens up into like 8 tiers. Yeah, 50,000 points of like fucking a Grey Knight with Custodes Astartes and fucking Imperial Guard backup or something. This is literally the first season you get. Yeah, the only part of it that I remember. Yeah, half painted. No, yeah, and hand painted, you know. kit bashed all unique orcs. Oh shit! The journalist trembling holds up one of the models of like a vehicle. Kit bashed? No, not kit bashed. Actually, oh wait, sorry, we weren't doing British. We were doing a Southern Belle. You know. Well, I do declare that one there wasn't kit bashed. That's a custom model. Yes, it is. Got it handmade over at Games Workshop. Just myself. Cost a pretty penny. Not as much as this battle's gonna cost you, though. It's like made out of metal. Okay. Sorry. This hurts me. Can we just watch the video? We're almost done.
By maintaining the principle of honor in our society...
God damn it! Dude, Paradox game players. Holy shit. First the samurai, now this fake-ass Crusader imagery. Yeah, dude, Crusaders totally looked like this. This is a real thing that really happened. People wearing 4,000 pounds of plate armor, with a horse wearing 4,000 pounds of plate armor, with a fucking long sword and a gigantic steel. This is what they really look like. Don't you know this is what they look like? This is literally like politics via 40K. I like how they have like a fucking... Who is this guy supposed to be? Like a priest? Can this guy cast magic? This guy can cast magic, can't he? Yes, he can. In this painting, this guy is the wizard. Yeah, obviously. Of course. With the winged fucking helm, the giant cross. Jesus, man. Plate is like 45 pounds. Yeah, this guy's not wearing regular plate. This guy's wearing fucking pauldrons. Do you see this? God. And the cross, what is it? What is this meant to be, a battle standard? Why is it so small? It's not on a flag. Okay.
Hold that we must uphold a higher moral standard that whatever our community happens to believe at that.
I remember the Crusades, where the first Crusades was literally just like the Pope riling hundreds of thousands of medieval peasants up into a march eastward, where they just like killed and raped a bunch of people until they got stopped by a professional army and slumped their way back. Remember that? I remember the Crusades. Those were good. Remember all the other Crusades where it was basically just like religious colonialism? That was good. Hey guys, remember what happened at Constantinople? Remember them losing? I remember. Crusades would literally murder civilians. Yeah, no shit. They literally thought they were killing subhumans. Yeah.
A given time. When I'm scared, I try to imagine how many of our Irish ancestors died in the noose for rebelling against the English, or how horrible the trenches of World War I must have been. In those cases, my sacrifices appear small according to that perspective. In a society with a strong sense of honor, you can shame people who did dumb things and crap.
If only we had the samurai Bushido code, we could shame the furries. We're too weak culturally to resist the furry influence, but if only the samurai code still existed. What the fuck?
Stuff like attend a sexual furry convention or buy NFTs since they're dishonoring their inherent value as human beings.
What the fuck are we talking about? What are we talking about?
When the Mongols invade, you fight since to not do so dishonor your own value as a human, whether or not your community believes that, or whether or not you live or die. Second idea is faith. Not even faith in God, faith in goodness. The Western intellectual systems...
Modern religious people always try to pull this game where they're like, yeah, the West needs more faith. Not faith in Jesus Christ Almighty, but faith in all of the institutions and cultural signifiers that are given power by standard hegemonic religion. You know? Not faith in God, but faith in virtue. And by virtue, I mean what God says. They're trying to, like, bait secular people in.
Since the beginning has been built off a combination of faith and rationality. Both of these, when taken too far, have their own problems, with overweening faith resulting in horrifying religious fanaticism, and untethered logic spiraling into Nazism and slavery.
That's where logic leads, huh? Ah, yes, the untethered logic of the Nazis and of slavery. What? I like how he's not attributing Nazism and slavery to failures of virtue, especially given the fact that both the Nazis and slavers used religious justifications for their behavior, but rather to logic gone too far. Yeah, dude, the slavers were all out there doing debate bro tactics on abolitionists and totally weren't just Bible-thumping lunatics.
Rationality cannot exist by itself.
Oh, here we go. A genocide map of the last 10,000 years. So we acknowledge the genocide of the Americas, I guess. Europeans versus Amerindians, a term now. Indo-Aryans versus farmers. What? Farmers versus natives, 10,000 BC. What? That is a term? Okay, well, it's new to me now. Turks versus Indo-Aryans, 500 BC to 1000 AD. I feel like for going back to 10,000 BC for our, like, genocide talking points, wouldn't genocide have happened everywhere? Like, if you go back 10,000 years, basically every part of the Earth that is inhabited would have encountered some kind of ethnic cleansing. 10,000 BC? You mean prehistory? Okay, yeah. Bantus versus the... Okay, well, whatever.
There's no one who says human life has an inherent rational value, and it doesn't rationally make sense to enslave the neighboring nations.
What?
These are things that we realize we would not like done to us, and so on moral faith we make the call. God. The assumption that the modern agnostic world
Yep, here, we're trying to do the bait.
Makes are rooted
ideas you have that come from Christianity. So Christianity invented all these things. The equal value of every human being, except people spent thousands of years arguing through Christianity that humans weren't equal, and also there were religions and beliefs that believed this before then. Slavery is wrong, except it was justified through the Bible. The need to search for the truth above everything else, except the Catholic Church would literally, like, kill... This guy literally, like, defended the Salem witch trials as a Darwinist removal of unbreedable women. And he's arguing like these people are... Okay. The scientific method invented by 14th century monks. Okay. Well, the scientific method in its applicable form, as well as the modern secularist movement, which brought about the Age of Enlightenment, was secularist in large part. The individual has value over the group. What the fuck does that even mean? Causing others suffering is wrong. An idea invented by Christianity. Scapegoating the weak is wrong. This was the norm in most ancient religions. I think that you could make... Wait, hold on. Didn't we scapegoat Jesus? I think you could make a decent argument that Christianity was unique in the sense that it was a relatively early incarnation of the idea that, like, the idea of, like, the strong win is, like, uniquely bad. But Judaism already had that panned out thousands of years beforehand, so I don't know. Yeah. Women should be allowed independence from men. The classic Christian value. The rich are not inherently spirited poor. Right. So, again, religious people love to do this shit. Basically, what they'll do is the entire history of a religious movement will be against a bunch of values that we now think are good today. So then modern religious people, rather than defending that, will just lie and go, yeah, actually Christianity was in favor of all those things forever. Ignore the fact that everything shown here is entirely antithetical to the average values of, like, 12th century Europe or whatever, which was Christian. Ignore all of that, and ignore the fact that all of the major advances here have been done usually in defiance of religious doctrine. And you've got yourself some ahistorical religious defense. The vast majority of these things could be found in Buddhism and among Hindu philosophical schools centuries before Christianity. Oh yeah, none of this is new to Christianity. Guys, whenever a Christian says that morality comes from Christianity, what they're really saying is they would be raping children if they didn't think they'd go to hell for it. That is it. That's it. I believe in nothing more charitable than that. Nothing is a, like, greater, like, self-report than saying my moral principles stem entirely from fear of punishment that was instilled in me when I was a child. You know, when religious people incredulously argue, like, well, how can you even have morality without that? Like, it's absolutely psychotic. This is fucking funny. From Whatifalthist Twitter. I told my father my friend group's political goals, and his reply was, "This sounds like you all played way too much Civilization as children." Holy fuck, that's good. Imagine getting owned like that by your dad. Imagine your dad, who's got to be like 60 years old or some shit, recognizing the paradox game brain rot.
In fundamentally Christian faith-based understandings of the world that fall apart under logical scrutiny. The problem rationality faces is that without humility of its own failings, it quickly becomes arrogant and tries to overreach, and then afterwards, without the emotional support...
I don't want to read all of this. None of it means anything. Oh, wait, sorry, the follow-up. I do wonder how playing Civilization, Paradox, Total War, and Age of Empires will influence the next generation of leadership.
...of faith that loses hope and sees no reason to live. However, the truth is that you don't need a reason to be good. You don't need a reason to be alive. You don't need a reason to try to advance the human race, reach the stars, expand your nation. Life pushes on with its own logic. If you stand against goodness and the expansion of life, your logic is wrong. We need to take these...
Please stop making fun of Paradox games. You were literally just talking about Warhammer. Yeah, the difference is that I don't fucking make political prescriptions based on my, like, Warhammer or Paradox games, whatever. Paradox games on their own are fine. The problem is people will legitimately base their political values off of these, like, fucking game simulations and make everything sound like a video game. That's what this guy does. The way he talks, like he's trying to sound like the description text of the technologies and civilizations that you encounter in those games. You know what I mean? Like when you expand your borders and you encounter the Incan Empire and then you scroll over them and it's like, humbled by the many millennia neath the tree canopy of the jungle, and like that's what he wants to be. Like he wants everything in the world to be categorizable into these distinct like taxonomies that are really easy to understand, but are also vague and ambiguous enough that they can be applied to any actual real world political grievance he has. And that's it, you know?
Articles of faith and first principles in our society. If someone were to say, argue that we shouldn't colonize space and instead focus on problems on Earth, I would say that we should take on faith that we needed to expand the human race, and doing great projects was good in of itself that we shouldn't question. I could give a bunch...
Can't you just... Why does that have to be taken on faith? Can't you just say, A, the space race has given us a lot of technological innovations that do benefit our lives, and B, the spreading of humanity across multiple planetary bodies makes it less likely that the civilization gets wiped out by any given catastrophe? Wait, you don't have to take that on faith, dude. He just wants to suck Elon's dick? Then why do it through faith? Like, what? Like, this is what I mean. Like, yeah, dude, science invented, religion invented rationality. Meanwhile, let me have no rational arguments in favor of something that's really fucking easy to rationally argue for.
Bunch of policies here, but that's a whole different video, and I think they logically follow from the principles of faith and honor. I think if the modern West can learn to fall in love with these two principles again, it will allow it to escape decadence. Decadence comes from when man turns away from the stars and instead drowns himself in wine. However, even if you're standing still in a rocket, you're still going thousands of miles per hour towards the heavens.
I really wish that I could, like, tie this guy to a chair and talk with him for, like, 40 hours or something. Just, like, a really long time. And, like, have him cooperate. Like, he'd have to answer my questions and stuff. Like, cause, like, bro, what is he saying? I don't know. He's insane. Can I say ableist stuff? You want to be his therapist? Well, I do think that, like, behavior like this has to stem from a broken mind. I mean that sincerely. I don't mean that as, like, hyperbole. People think my ableism is a joke. No, no, no. I'm sincerely ableist, okay? Do me some credit. No, 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 no. When I see stuff like, this is a thoroughly broken mind. Guys, I talked with him for 50 minutes before he ran away. Do you remember what that conversation was like? He is unreachable, you know? Like, don't get me wrong. Every human has a barrier in their mind. There's thought, and then there's the world outside, and sometimes getting things between them is not always easy. That's the case with me and everyone in chat. But he is something else. He is impermeable, and I genuinely think that it stems from some kind of mental problem. Personally, I think it's cum brain. I think he has never come. You know, I can defer, I guess, to his appearance. I just don't think he has ever come. I do believe that. And I think that if he ever came, it would drain the levels and the cum would go lower, because right now it's backed up, and it would go lower. No, I'm not saying it's because he's unattractive. I don't think he is unattractive at all. It's because he looks like he's LARPing as a Christian, like, youth minister. It's because he looks like he's terrified of women. It has nothing to do with his appearance. Very different, yeah. Would you date Whatifalthist history? I would date somebody who looks like Whatifalthist history. Well, probably not. I don't like beards. But I think that he's cute. That's not the thing. It's not that he's not cute. It's just I think he's terrified of women. And as such, the cum levels have risen up way too high in his brain. Vaush, I don't come and I'm not anywhere near this moronic. Maybe he has really big balls that make lots of cum, you know? This smells like cum. It's always leaking out of his ears. How many historical paintings did we see in that video that had chicks with their tits out? There were like 5 in there, right? I don't know. I don't know. Remember Black Pigeon hears him simping for Elon? Well, yeah, all the far-right people simp for Elon. It's not really that surprising. Didn't Black Pigeon Speaks channel get deleted? Or it might have gotten reinstated. Man, his views are way lower than they used to be. Oh, he took an 8-month break, and then he made 4 videos, all of which are like less than 100k views. Yeah, okay, I don't care anymore. Fell off plus L plus ratio, etc., etc. Yeah. Pretty sure his channel survived the Nazi purge. Maybe they were too boring. The YouTube moderation team couldn't get through them all. Woo! Yeah. Anyway, what if all history is fun? These videos, like Spirit Science, are fun to get into, but they have to be done in moderation because they are destructive in significant quantities. What's my my big prescription at the end of all this? Again, there's not really anything coherent to like dig into with his videos, so it's kind of hard to even say much about them. Yeah, it's like Spirit Science tier. It's the not even wrong tier stuff.